Welcome to Noted episode 0.13 with Tone and Michael Goldstien and myself, Pierre Rochard. How are you guys?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to be on your podcast.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Tone. We met in person in New York, and it feels like it was a decade ago, but really it was probably only like a year ago, right?
I think it was more than a year ago, but it does feel like a decade ago. Man, I should have got a glass of wine too. But it does feel a while ago. And the thing is, at the time when we met, I wasn't sure like which direction you were going to be leading to as far as like altcoins go and big blockers go. I'm glad you went in the same direction as I was already on. But I don't know if you got that feel as well, where it's just in those days, it was a lot harder to figure out which side of the Bitcoin forks you really belong on.
Pierre wouldn't have risked his friendship with me with such frivolous opinions.
Yeah, no, I do whatever Michael tells me to do because he's kind of the cult guru as the president of the Nakamoto Institute. But I do remember, well, all the way back, I think it was in 2013 or in 2014, I was already arguing with Daniel Krawisz about the block size limit privately. Like, we never really got into it publicly. But I did argue about it publicly with Gavin Andreessen on IRC back in 2014. And yeah, I don't know why I already had a strong opinion about it, like from the get-go, because it was like, we weren't remotely close to hitting the 1 megabyte limit at the time. It was a very theoretical concern. But after reading the white paper, it's like Satoshi like made it. He if you want to talk about Satoshi's vision, he says it black and white. Like, transaction fees are going to replace block subsidy for making sure that the hash rate is high enough to keep the network secure. So that was always kind of a thing in my mind.
Yeah, no, and for me, it was more like, I'm sorry, like, look, Satoshi solved an amazing problem, but but I learned in my 9 years on Wall Street, what I learned was there are always people that are smarter. Now, those people may not invent set X, but once set X is put in front of them, they will be able to take it further than the original creator. So for me, you know, like once people like Gregory Maxwell and Peter Willa and some of the other guys got in there, like you have to potentially put even more emphasis on their joint view of the situation than Satoshi at the very beginning. Because in the very beginning, he probably did not know what was best and what was or wasn't going to work. And when he added that block size limit of 1 megabyte, he probably didn't realize that that was a point of no return. There is no going back because hard forks are not going to work. And at the time, that probably was like not something that he had to think about. The fact that he's like, oh, we can always like fork. And then you realize, no, wait, you can't. It's too late. What's done is done. You can't put that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, and it's funny because even like for us who've been in Bitcoin for years, I feel like every month I'm learning something new about Bitcoin. And to presume that Satoshi knew everything about it and, you know, left in 2010, to me is absurd. Like, there's no way that he knew everything about it and could see the future perfectly, because Bitcoin is a continuous process of learning new things. And it's hubris to suggest that he was a soothsayer and we should just do whatever we think that he would have done.
Right. And here's another challenge that I throw at people quite often, especially like the altcoiners that like believe in Litecoin and Manero, all these people that tell me there's going to be multiple blockchains and multiple currencies. And then I ask them, well, what was one of the reasons that you like Bitcoin? And very often they say, well, it's a 21 million coin limit. And my reply to them is, but if you believe that Litecoin and or Monero are going to exist, then you don't believe in the 21 Bitcoin limit. You don't want a limit. Satoshi should have created infinite inflation because that's what you want if you believe in Litecoin and Monero to coexist with Bitcoin.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a huge amount of overlap between like multi-coiners, as I call them, or altcoiners, and essentially like inflationist Keynesian ideology that is against sound money or skeptical of the utility and necessity of sound money. And lately, we've been seeing them accuse Bitcoin maximalists of being rude or toxic or stupid. There's all sorts of accusations that are getting thrown our way. And what do you make of like the tribalism that we're accused of?
Well, it's worse than that for me because I've been like bearish for a little while now with the current downtrend. So like those are the trolls that are almost being drowned out by other Bitcoin maximalists that are mad at me that I'm not pumping the price of Bitcoin, right? Yeah. So it's even worse in my case. But yeah, it really fascinates me sometimes, and a lot of these people have no idea what they're talking about. So I'm starting to almost ignore them. But like right now, like I said, my current arguments are with people that were in full agreement with me 3 months ago that are now pissed at me and accusing me of like forcing the price of Bitcoin down.
Yeah, that seems kind of silly to me in the sense that I don't think that any one person can influence the price of Bitcoins. And even like when someone like Jamie Dimon came out, during the bull market and was poo-pooing it at, $4,000 or whatever it was, that didn't stop the run up, even if it caused like a 2% dip that day. One person can't affect the price. But I think that there is definitely like cultural pressure within the tribe to be perma-bullish. And I'm definitely open to the accusation of being a perma-bull. I'm bullish, whether the price is $19,000 or whether it's $8,000 like it is today. But that's just because
I personally only want Bitcoin charts and widgets and stuff that show me the Bitcoin price going up. So if it's going down, don't tell me at all. But if it's gone down a lot, say it drops by 70%, but then there's a 2% increase, tell me that all day. I only want to see good news.
And really, I just have a long-term perspective on it. And so it's easy to kind of be a long-term bull and to be excited about it while not really having a particular view on the day-to-day or the month-to-month. And the day-to-day and the month-to-month matters for traders. It's important. But for, people like me who are somewhere in between like Bitcoin politicians / philosophers / developers, I don't have the nerve to be actively trading. And I'm honest with myself on that. Like when the price was at $19,000, I was having a mental breakdown. Like I was so excited and giddy. There's no way I could make a sane trading decision. And so I just stay out of the game entirely. And I'm just purely in the buy and hodl mindset. But I don't think that people should give you grief because, well, okay, what is your bearish view? Is it kind of a 2018 isn't going to turn out as well as 2017? Or is it that we're going to zero?
Well, no, I'm not that bearish on it. I'm still hoping that 4,900 will reverse us back to the upside. Now, I don't know how swift that reversal is going to be. I am seeing 2018 to be more like 2014, where my worst case scenario is back to the prior all-time high of 1,300, which would hurt, but it's not going to destroy Bitcoin. It'll purge a lot of the bad companies out and a lot of bad ideas out, like it did in 2014. But then it also, brought Ethereum in. So who knows?
Yeah, it brought Ethereum in. It also it does do psychological damage to some Bitcoiners as well. I think that like Bcash was born in the bear market, the previous bear market, even though it really came into reality and manifested itself in the world during the bull market. I think that the psychology of it, like people were telling me that to increase the price, the value of Bitcoin, when it was at like $500, we need to increase the block size limit for marketing reasons so that it looks better. And in fact, I remember Jeff Garzik was spreading this theory called the Fidelity effect, which is that, oh, Fidelity wants to use Bitcoin, but they can't because of the block size limit, which was complete and utter nonsense. But he was spreading that around as propaganda to try to do a hard fork. But
well,
yeah,
I don't know, like in hindsight, I mean, look, we're back. Like the mempool is nowhere near full. Like I just don't understand why I'm not a conspiracy theorist, right? I'm not gonna say these guys are on a mission to destroy Bitcoin itself, right? Like I'm not going that far. But like I'm trying to think, what is this insane fascination with the block size limit ever since 2015, before they were even full the first time around? And I think it comes down to, people like Gavin Andreessen, people like Mike Hearn, people like Jeff Garzik, people that were at one point, considered as, the smart core developers, have been totally pushed out by really actually smart core developers. And this was like their way of firing or, voting the strong guy off the island so that they have a chance.
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting things with that. I notice even today, I constantly hear from Bcashers about the 1 megabyte block size limit, which has now not existed since Bcash came out, because it was that day that SegWit came out, and now we've seen some very large blocks. Such a limit simply doesn't exist, so they use it as a total straw man. But what's also interesting is, there continues to be this, I almost think of it as a very naive way of looking at scaling, because when I think of Bitcoin scaling, there's so much infrastructure that needs to be built around, everything from key management to, actual trusted networks between the actual institutions that want to work with Bitcoin and work with customers on Bitcoin. There's just so much to do that to focus in on a single number is actually one of the laziest ways to be thinking about scaling.
Yeah. There's and wallet user interfaces as well.
Absolutely.
And what's really I find amusing also is that now that the Bcash camp is spinning out of control, because even among themselves, you have people who are like, oh, let's stream videos on the blockchain, and like let's just stuff op return data with Netflix. And then others are like, well, that might not be a good idea. Like let's think about a better way to do that. And then they're accused
if the block size limit if the block size limit is arbitrary, then it seems like the op return limit would also be arbitrary. So we should probably raise all of it to an infinite size.
Like I will say that if Bitcoin Core supporters were as malicious and as trolly as the big blockers, we would have spammed the shit out of their chain to the point of absurdity. Like somebody would have already wrote a script like backing up every crypto kitty on the Bitcoin blockchain with an exponential factor on top of it, right? Like it's just that no one that with the capability to do that as a Bitcoin Core supporter wants to waste their time, because they don't really have anything to gain, because they know that disaster is going to zero anyway. So no one wants to waste their time. On the flip side, these guys do nothing all day but try to write scripts and spam the Bitcoin mempool until the current situation where that's no longer feasible, as more and more companies are using batch transactions and they're using SegWit and Lightning's around the corner. So I think it's done.
Well, we must. Well, first of all, thanks for revealing that Pierre and I are actually just not nice guys and not total trolls. But on the other hand, I have to thank, when you frame it like that, I have to thank Bcash for offering us all of the free stress testing that they've paid for and given us, because it's allowed our network to just grow stronger and stronger. So thank you, Bcash.
But it does bother me that they control Bitcoin.com and the Bitcoin Twitter handle It's just this like brand confusion that does bother me a little bit. But at the end of the day, all they will do is they will prove to the world not to go to internet.com to learn the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely the silver lining to it, which is it provides an early lesson to noobs that there's no official Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a kind of a social consensus and a network consensus, peer-to-peer network consensus. And there's no, the Bitcoin.com itself is a complete fraud. Bitcoin.org has been slipping into that lately, I think with some of the noise I've heard from Cobra.
Well,
but,
I think we should be clear that that hasn't been reflected on the website itself.
Except for a brief moment when they had a knots as the
yes, yeah, that was, I was going to bring that one up, but generally speaking, it hasn't had. We should generally separate Cobra's public statements on Twitter from what has actually shown on the Bitcoin.org website. Although it does give you concern about what might happen in the future, because it is up to the owner of a domain to decide what gets shown.
Yeah, and also I think Cobra, like after the how long mining little incident last week, and I don't know if you guys saw my tweet from yesterday. I took a picture with a bunch of how long miners, so they do exist, and they do.
I've seen them as well. I think I've seen the same ones as you have.
Yeah. So I don't have one yet. I still run my Canon miner, but yeah, I got to get my hands on one of those sooner or later.
Speaking of mining, we got some news today that Earn.com has been acquired by Coinbase, and Earn.com used to be 21 Co, which was a mining hardware. They used to have their own like mining server farm, and then they created the little mining USB miner, and then they abandoned that altogether. But people were congratulating them on being acquired by Coinbase, but I feel like they could have been the Helong Mining or the Bitmain of the U.S. Do you agree, Tone? Like, was there a missed opportunity there, or were they just in a tough spot?
I mean, they could have been if the company was actually ran by someone who knew what they were doing in the space of mining, right? I mean, How Long Mining was an initiative by BTC Drac, who's a Bitcoin core developer and has been around the space and forever, and he probably mined back in the day, and he understands the ecosystem. 21 was started by Balaji, who last I heard was going to go and be like the FDA chair or something for the U.S. government, right? So again, like what experience do you have running it? Like, what experience does Brian Armstrong have running his current company and now buying this failed company? Like, what the hell is Coinbase doing?
Well, my understanding is that they're both financed by A16Z. So it seems as though like Coinbase was told to acquire Earn.com to save face and also to get Balaji as the CTO of Coinbase. Now, I don't know if Balaji's on board with CryptoKitties or not. His Twitter banner is the Federal Reserve former Federal Reserve chairperson Janet Yellen with the Buy Bitcoin sign behind her. So that's a promising Twitter banner, but I don't know if he's going to get more into the Toshi and the Ether and the CryptoKitties, or if he's going to double down on Bitcoin and try to get the tech team focused on that instead. I guess that's TBD.
Yeah, it amazes me how like Coinbase is still like around. Like I mean, it's like our favorite punching bag on all of our YouTube channels.
It definitely I consider it to be the AOL of Bitcoin, and it's funny because people say, "Oh, Bitcoin is the MySpace of cryptocurrencies, and Ethereum is Facebook or whatever." But really, I think that the more realistic analysis is that something like Coinbase is the AOL. And I hope that as Coinbase and companies like them diversify into various shitcoins, that it opens up a space for Bitcoin maximalist exchanges and brokerages that really want to focus on providing high quality Bitcoin, fiat, on ramps and off ramps. I don't know if that's unrealistic, but I hope that's what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. We will see. But it's I don't know. It's a rough proposition. Like interfacing with banks. I mean, that's not what I would want to do in this space. But I don't know. Well, we'll see where it goes. I mean, the majority of people still use Coinbase. We'll see where it goes from there. I mean, I'm still, the hardcore guy telling people not to use, bank connected means of using Bitcoin. Just let's see what happens. I have no idea which way the regulation is going to swing. And these ICOs are not helping.
The problem with, so like, I guess the alternative you're hinting at is something like local Bitcoins.
Yeah.
The issue is that it's more expensive, right? And people just end up looking at the...
Not at the moment.
No? Okay, I haven't looked recently. I remember there being a bit of a spread between Coinbase and local Bitcoins, but if that's changed, then it might be a good idea.
There is some spread. There's some spread unless you want to, like be a little picky. But yeah, there is a spread, right? But you pay for anonymity.
Right. And we're seeing now that, it's April 16th. Tomorrow is tax day, although, it's like, wait, why isn't it today? But anyway, and that's where the anonymity can possibly pay off, which is that Coinbase provides a huge amount of data to the IRS. And then the IRS is just going to look at all that data and see who they want to pick on and see who they want to audit. And the crazy part is that Coinbase has this data, but they don't have all of your data. So they don't know if you actually, how much you sold and how much you bought, because it's spread out between different exchanges. And, you could have been sending between your own wallets.
It should have been. Like, I've said it from day one. I've said it back in 2014. And Coinbase quasi followed this policy, and it's the only policy to follow. If you bought on Coinbase and you moved it out of Coinbase, they have to assume that you sold it. They absolutely have to. It has to get reported to the IRS from Coinbase when you got in through Coinbase and when you got out. And when you got out, they have to assume it's a sale. The reason it has to be done this way, and people were arguing with me over it, the reason why it has to be done this way is because if they're wrong, you can easily prove that you still have the Bitcoin. But if it's done the other way, you can't prove that you no longer have the Bitcoin.
Right.
Right? Like, you can prove a positive, you can't prove a negative.
And that's a strong argument for using local Bitcoins. So you
don't even have to be in this debate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even if you're not trying to evade taxes, it's just that you're going to have to deal with an IRS audit because Coinbase was reporting data that you're right that that's the best possible data, but ultimately it was false.
But they don't know that, right?
Right.
Unless you want to provide them the details of what you're doing with that Bitcoin then after, and nobody wants to do that either.
No, that's even worse.
Right. So that's what you have. And you know what? That's how stock market is treated as well, but no one ever moves their stock out and puts them in their safe. No one does that.
Hey, while we're on the topic of taxes, there's been some theories out there about how for 2017, it was okay to report trades as like kind. That is, that you wouldn't pay on the capital gains between cryptocurrencies. Do you think that that's going to hold up?
No, that's ridiculous. It doesn't matter what you're trading. Like, you can be trading basketball cards. It's irrelevant, right? If you're making money on trading basketball cards, you're supposed to report that income. Now, if you think that you can get away with not reporting that income, you're not going to report that income, right? I remember when Bitcoin Uncensored podcast was going on, they always used to say it's your patriotic duty to pay your taxes. And I used to change that. Well, it's your patriotic duty to pay the least amount of taxes you can legally get away with. And that's why you pay, higher priced accountants, because I will always find more, useful things to do with my money than the government. So the lowest amount of taxes I can legally pay with my CPA putting together my tax my tax return, the better off the U.S. economy is. So that's my view on it, right? But no, it doesn't matter what you make money on. You can be going to garage sales and buying a bunch of old junk and then reselling it on eBay. If you're making money on that, you're supposed to pay taxes on that. So yeah, so that doesn't change when you're moving around old coins. Like the underlying asset that you flipping is completely irrelevant.
Yeah. Another blow to the idea that Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin.
Yeah, and it's funny because I did see someone say that the strongest argument for Litecoin is between Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin, and even that I don't think would hold up very well.
No, none of it is going to hold up. And the IRS isn't what you have to worry about. I mean, look, the worst that will ever happen with the IRS is they will figure out that you didn't pay your taxes. They will send you a letter with their estimate of how much they think you owe them. And you can disagree and you can counter them and you can argue with them and you can offer them probably a slightly lower, like, hey, you guys see my bank account? I can't afford that. Let's negotiate, right?
Yeah.
Like the worst that can happen is you pay the difference that they say you owe them plus a little bit of a fine. They just want their money back. The problem that you want to avoid is FinCEN is your biggest problem and the SEC is your second biggest problem. Like the SEC doesn't actually put people in jail, but FinCEN does. So you really want to avoid money transmission laws. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but like we're all slowly becoming like lawyers and legal experts and accountants. It's really amazing, right? Did you ever think you'd know so much about money laundering and money transmission before you got into Bitcoin?
Yeah, no.
But like the interesting thing there is like this whole idea of money transmission. Like if you're a local Bitcoin dealer and you're flipping like $100 values, let's say you're like the lowest of the low, right? You're running around the city, you're buying $100 or $200 worth of Bitcoin from this guy, selling $100 or $200 worth of Bitcoin from another guy. If this is pretty much your job, then you are a money transmitter. The amount doesn't actually matter. This $10,000 limit doesn't actually apply. You can be running around selling $100 here and there, and you got to comply with money transmission laws. On the flip side, if you're an early Bitcoin adopter and you want to buy or sell like, $1 million worth of Bitcoin, the money transmission law doesn't apply because that's not actually your job. You're not flipping Bitcoin back and forth. So if you're an early Bitcoin adopter, from my understanding, you can sell $100,000 worth of Bitcoin a few times a year, as long as you're not actually buying from one place, selling to another. It's not your job. You're not flipping Bitcoin. You're just cashing out. Then you don't have to deal with FinCEN. You just got to deal with the IRS on at what price you acquired it and how much you profited.
It's telling how all of the laws seem to point to hodling as the way to go.
Right. I mean, it's like the Libertarian Dream, right? You huddle until there's a complete financial collapse, and then there's no one to stop you on you cashing out. The problem with that dream that we all had for gold before we got into Bitcoin, as I learned in 2008, the problem with that dream is when the society and economics actually starts to collapse, your gold also starts to collapse because no one has the money to buy your gold, and you're trying to sell it at any price you can to buy food or, pay the heating bill if you're out in New York. Not a problem over there in Texas, though at night it does get unreasonably cold, by the way. But yeah, so what happened during the 2008 financial crisis is that gold fell 33%, mostly because that anyone that had gold had to sell it to live on it. So your gold isn't going up. So be careful about this dream of the collapse of America for your Bitcoin to be this infinite value, because you may have problems finding someone with money that wants to buy it.
Absolutely. I think the doomsday, scenarios need to be pushed back on. I'm not in Bitcoin because I want to see the collapse of society. I'm in Bitcoin because I want to see society grow by having a better money.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, go ahead, Pierre.
I think that really shows the contrast between a kind of a deflationary debt collapse like we saw in 2008, and an inflationary like transition to a new currency. Because there, like in an inflationary scenario, the debt actually becomes worthless. In a deflationary scenario, the debt becomes increasingly onerous until you end up defaulting on it, and then you get your house taken away. And so my hope is that Donald Trump, bless his heart, does a great job of debasing the dollar, devaluing the dollar, trying to compete with, you know, the Russians and China, that he makes the dollar worthless rather than causing a deflationary debt crisis like we had in 2008.
Yeah, they're both bad when they start to get out of control. Like, you don't want Argentina, you don't want Venezuela. You want it to be noticeable and slow. You want people to like notice the fact that your dollar is actually devaluing in money, and looking for alternatives. If it happens too fast, then no one has the money to buy it. And there's not that much deflation. I mean, look, I've lived in New York for 15, 20 years now. Yeah, things are a little bit more expensive. And my dad was just complaining today about the gas prices going up. And I'm like, yeah, but, you know, you don't remember what happened like 8 years ago when oil went to $150 a barrel and gas was like way more expensive like 8 or 9 years ago than it is now? Like, things aren't that much more expensive.
But as long as the people think, you know, things are getting a little more expensive, but I noticed those Bitcoiners are still eating ribeyes every night. Maybe I should check out what they're up to.
Yeah, no. I'm like, in my head, Bitcoin is going significantly lower. I was staying at a hostel over in Austin, but that's also because your real estate like renting is unreasonable. Like, I don't understand. It's Austin. I went to Austin. I was in Vancouver, and then I was in San Francisco, and two of the most expensive real estates in the world. And then I get to Austin, and I'm like, there's no way I'm paying $250 a night for a hotel room. It was ridiculous. Like, that's not it. I paid half that in both San Fran and Vancouver.
Was that in the downtown area?
Yeah, I was downtown by 6th Street. So I ended up at one of the hostels, like $50 a night. I'll take it. I've never been in the hostel before. It was an experience. Should do a podcast on it.
Yeah, you'll meet interesting people at a hostel. So on the note, you were talking about, you know, your bear market thesis. And in my mind, it's like either we're in 2013 when it was like April or May or whatever it was, where, you know, we had a run up to $270, and then we had a bear market until December when it went up to $1,200. And so that was like a really short, shallow bear market. Or we're in the other scenario where it was, you know, from $1,200 in a long grind down to like $250. And that was like a deep, long bear market.
So I'm in the latter camp.
Yeah.
I'm in the latter camp for two reasons. And I've recently had this conversation. So I'm in the latter camp for two reasons. One of them is the time period matches so much better for starters, right? Because that bubble came in December. This one came in around the same time, December. That one came in like late November. This one came in mid-December. So it was only about 2 weeks off. So far, they're acting almost in tandem. The reason why I don't think it's the 2013 one is because we actually had legitimate drivers of price to 266. There were the specific event that took place during that bubble was Cyprus. I know this very well because that's when I was buying my first Bitcoin. And the other thing you have to realize, on that bubble to 266, we went from 266 down to $55 in like 5 days. We literally dropped 75 or 80% in 5 days. That did not happen this time around in February, right? I would have considered the 2013 scenario if we would have fell from 20,000 and bottomed out at 3,000 like a week later. And then I'm like, all right, bottom's in, you know? Yeah. And now we can grind back up for the rest of the year. But keep in mind, if that happened, had we fallen from 20K down to about 2 or 3,000, everybody would be happy right now with this $8,000 mark, including myself, and I would be screaming bull, bull, bull. But that didn't happen. And now we're sitting near the lows. I mean, we're way closer to the low of 6,000 than we are to the high of 20,000. So as long as we're closer to the low than the high, I have to assume that we're going to go lower. Like it's like I say, you'll be the best weatherman in the world if your forecast for tomorrow is always the same weather as today. You will be correct way more often than guessing what tomorrow is actually going to be. So as long as we're like trending around the lows, I have to assume lower prices. And for those two reasons, I'm leaning to the latter 2014 bear market than that we're in 2013.
So now, do you think that for our audience that price prognostications should translate into trading activity?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I do not trade Bitcoin for multiple reasons. Two of the biggest reasons being, one of them, I really don't want to trade a 24/7 market that I have no time to trade. Like even if I had the time, if I wasn't traveling, if none of you knew my name, I don't know if I would want to trade a 24/7 market. I used to trade futures, which wasn't exactly 24/7, but close. Futures trade 24/7, but there was like 3 to 4 hour stretches where there's zero volume activity going on. But I've traded these markets and they're kind of stressful. I wasn't having fun. I switched my trading around to trade something more reasonable. I like the stock market because it closes. But because I'm so busy and flying all the time, there's no way I'm going to trade a 24/7 market. That's one reason. The other reason is I don't want to risk my Bitcoin. I've lost enough Bitcoin to stupid decisions that involved, letting somebody else hold my private keys. I'm not going to do it again, right? So if I do trade Bitcoin, it's going to be in the CME future space that isn't putting my own Bitcoin at risk. So for those two reasons, I don't trade Bitcoin. But I love, forecasting the price of Bitcoin. Obviously, I want to be right. Obviously, I grow my popularity because that's kind of what I do. I'm a podcaster. But more so, like, for example, another reason why I stayed at a hostel while I was in Austin this whole week was because I'm not very optimistic about the price of Bitcoin. And I think I'm going to be significantly poorer in the months to come. And I'm already preparing for that, right? Like if Bitcoin was trading at like 20,000 right now and I thought it was going to go higher and higher, I probably would have been flying, business class and staying at nicer places. So I think it's important to have an idea of where the Bitcoin price is going so that you can properly adjust your standard of living when all of your income and all of your life revolves around Bitcoin. So for me, it's very, very important, even though I don't trade. So hopefully that will answer a couple of questions for people that don't understand why I do what I do.
Well, what's fascinating to me in what you just said is that it goes so contrary to the mainstream economic theory, which is that when the price of Bitcoin is going up, that is when it's quote unquote deflationary, right? The purchasing power of Bitcoin is going up. And standard economic theory would state that, oh, well, people are going to spend less because they expect it to continue to go up. And so they're going to wait until the value goes up. The reality is that you have the wealth effect, which is that you feel wealthier. You feel more certain about the future. So you go and you spend a little more than you otherwise would, which has been the case for me personally. And also the data backs that up.
Oh, of course.
When I worked at BitPay, we saw that the price was 100% correlated with people's spending. And you just described the reverse, which is that the value of Bitcoins is going down. Standard economic theory would say, oh, that's inflation, right? Your purchasing power is go down. So you're going to want to get rid of your Bitcoins and go spend them. The reality is that you're like, oh, I'm getting poorer. I'm going to get poorer. I need to cut it, restrain my spending and not give away cheap Bitcoins. I should be accumulating cheap Bitcoin.
Right.
So it really turns things on its head.
Yeah, those economists need to be introduced to the When Lambo meme.
Exactly. Yeah, they've never done donuts with a Lambo on the moon. And so Paul Krugman has missed out on a life experience there.
But at least he's not in a cult.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah. So actually, Tony, what do you think of the accusation the Bitcoin maximalists are in a cult?
I think it's absolutely crazy because like there's no leaders here. Like I've agreed with Greg Maxwell and called Luke Dash Jr. crazy. And I've agreed with Luke Dash Jr. and said, why is Greg so anti-user activated soft fork? And to people that don't like that, they go, oh, he's a flip-flopper. He can't make up his own mind. But in reality, no, I make up my mind based on the issue at hand. I got into this debate with Roger Ver when we're debating on a podcast, and he's talking about, following Satoshi, everything Satoshi, and then accuses me of obedience to authority to Bitcoin Core when I say, well, my obedience to authority in Bitcoin Core is kind of similar to my doctor or my dentist or anyone else that's an expert at something that I'm not. Like, I'm not going to go to the nearest nuclear power plant that provides energy for my neighborhood and tell them how to run their reactor. Like, that's not exactly my area of expertise, and I don't want to do that. So I equate it to that. Like, I leave it up to the scientists to tell me. There is, of course, a probability that the leading group of scientists could be wrong, and that could be challenged by one person. And again, these things happen all the time. Like Einstein went against certain theories and was right. Newton with gravity, Copernicus. We can go throughout history. But
and today we have Shaolin Fry.
Well, no, he didn't go against the consensus. He just threw in the user activated software stuff. But like even Satoshi himself, right? He went and solved the problem that the majority of the scientific programming community thought was impossible, right? The double spending problem in data, and he potentially solved it. So I agree that these things happen, right? They happen about as often. They happen even less often than college or high school dropouts building multi-billion-dollar companies. From Bill Gates to Steve Jobs to Zuckerberg was a college dropout. But what people don't understand that the correlation doesn't work the other way around, right? Like the reason why Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of college and built these, giant companies is because they were too smart for college, right? What we have here is people that are too dumb for college thinking that they are going to change the world. It doesn't work that way. And you get this one in a generation person that solves this unique problem, and somehow people think that they can also do the same, right? Or this guy has proven to me personally that he's smart and he will be the next Satoshi, right? Like this is the problem we run into. Like these are true black swan events, like generational events. And you just gotta, and that's not gonna happen again. There's not gonna be another Satoshi in our lifetime.
Well, your comments on authority, brought this thought to mind, which is that, we do have sort of authority figures in the Bitcoin core cult, so to speak. We have these people that we look up to, sometimes agree, sometimes don't agree, like, Greg Maxwell and Peter Woolley and Luke Dash, and all of these people. But all of these people we can actually give feedback to.
And then you have monster trolls like Peter Todd who give everybody, crap, right? So like they're checking each other.
Exactly. But then when you go to the Bcash side, there tends to be a heavy focus on Satoshi's original vision. And as much as we all, love and revere Satoshi, Satoshi's not around anymore. And they're really giving authority over to a completely abstract concept, and whoever can do the best, sort of persuasive or propaganda job at presenting themselves as the sort of voice for Satoshi. So being the libertarian I am, I have to prefer the authority structure of the core cult instead of the cash cult.
Well, right, because also the cash cult is looking at the Satoshi white paper like they're looking at the Bible or the Quran, and it becomes who can interpret this holy book better, and that's who's right.
I like that metaphor. My metaphor is that the white paper is like the Declaration of Independence, but ultimately the source code is the Constitution. And our government isn't based on the Declaration of Independence. Like that you're not going to really understand the federal government if you read the Declaration of Independence. You're going to understand it if you read the Constitution, up to a point, right? But in the case of Bitcoin, you're going to understand Bitcoin up to the point that you understand that, hey, this source code is being run by other nodes on the network and is establishing the peer-to-peer network consensus that people are agreeing to.
Yeah, in fact, reading the white paper, I didn't learn anything about how, Bitcoin networking actually happens.
Yeah.
I was just told, it's a thing that's out there, but you actually have to look into the code to even know how your peer communicates with other peers.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I also feel like my biggest pet peeve is the whole ideology of, the only true nodes are mining nodes. And that just completely drives me nuts because, anyway, we don't have to get into it on this podcast.
Right,
clearly it's not true.
Again, this gets into the Bible interpretation mechanism because when that Bible was written, it was assumed one CPU, one vote. Yeah. The ASICs thing was not exactly, thought of well enough ahead. So under the situation where every single wallet is a node, yes, but that's not what we have now.
But at the same time, in a way, with the way, from what we see with UASF, in a way, it is one CPU, one vote. I have a CPU behind me running that got to vote no to 2x.
Well, right, but it's not a mining one, right? But it
exactly.
Was right.
That's my point.
Right. It was under the assumption that, your CPU is a vote, but when your CPU is useless, what else do you do? So I like the new model. No, I do think that's what it should be. There is a little bit of a debate there. There's a little bit of a debate there, right? And what I'm saying, a little bit of a debate, and this is the problem. This is why I kind of stopped debating a lot of these people. And this is why whenever I have like ICO guys or real altcoiners on my channel, it's more of a like satirical thing, and they don't realize that I'm kind of trolling them the whole interview. I try not to do that because I hate giving like 10% of an idea, 50% of the voice. It's like I will never argue with a flat earther on my YouTube channel because that's just ridiculous, right? Or a creationist. Because look, I don't want to give you 50% of the platform for like a 1% of, less than 1% of, it's of people that believe in this. Definitely less than 1%. So it becomes this thing. It's like, man, why are we wasting our time arguing something that's totally ridiculous? Now, in this case, whether it should be a mining node or anyone should run a node, I think it's a little more than 1%. I mean, there is a little bit of a debate there. But again, how much platform do you want to give these people?
Right. And it's also just the context of the argument being made in the first place. So, I've heard Peter Todd in an old scaling presentation, probably from like 2013 or 2014. I think it was in San Francisco. He talked about, the sort of benefits you get from running a mining node, which is that if you want to make sure you don't get censored, you have to run a mining node if you want to, because if you have a mining node, at some point, probability wise, you'll be able to get your transaction into the blockchain, but otherwise there's a limit to that. But that's a very different way of approaching that.
A mining node on a pool that believes in what you believe, then yes, a mining node on your own, you'll never get that transaction.
Oh, of course. The point is that context of thinking about, what are the different things? What are the different trust levels at different nodes? That's very different from how they're doing it, which is I tend to view it as rather malicious and or just simply propagandist rather than.
Well, I also just see the converse, which is that there are miners in the past, I don't know that that's the case today, who were doing headers only mining. And essentially we're not running a full node and we're not verifying, everything. And so it's like, okay, well, you can say that, only miners are full nodes, but we have empirical evidence that there were miners that were not running full nodes.
Those aren't real miners.
Who is the counterbalance to them, if not us? If not the people who are transacting with full nodes. And so,
and in fact, unless we have full nodes, we don't even know if the miners have full nodes or not.
No, and it was more than 50% of the miners. So they could have just done whatever the hell they wanted to and mined whatever they wanted to. And the whole point is that miners mine, Bitcoin is the most valid chain. And then it's all right, well, what is a valid chain if we don't actually run full node? Anyway.
By the way, Peter Todd, if you're watching, I apologize if I said anything that misrepresented your view. Don't hurt me on Twitter.
He'll hurt you too. As Tone was saying, he was hurting the Lightning people. He was putting their feet to the fire, and I think that's entirely appropriate. And it really shows how silly the accusation of being a cult is when. We have people that are...
One of our most highly respected people, by the way.
Yeah, one of our gurus is engaging in some criticism.
And this is the Lightning one was another, kind of example of this. It's just looking at the ways in which people are approaching these things. Peter is not attacking Lightning, from what I can tell, from a anti-Lightning position. He's trying to give it a fair analysis to see what exactly are the trade-offs that we have to look at and accept if we want to use this network, as opposed to the anti-cultists who simply just hate Lightning and actually at this point seem to want to see it fail.
Right. And I have not added the Lightning bolt to my Twitter handle because I have not sent a Lightning transaction yet, and I would feel like a complete hypocrite if I did that prematurely. But when I do, I will add it, and I'll make sure to make it public.
And when you do, can you please let me know how to do that? Because I looked, I gave it 5 minutes. I'm like, I have no more time for this. How the hell do you even add one?
I've given it significantly more than 5 minutes. Oh, wait, are you talking about the Twitter handle or sending a Lightning transaction?
No, adding the Lightning bolt to your Twitter handle.
You got to copy paste it.
Yeah, I think there's a Unicode.
It's a Unicode character. Okay, yes, I haven't
so.
gotten to that. No, I haven't sent a Lightning transaction either. I got to figure out how to set up my own. I mean, look, it's going to be easier. How do you want to waste my time? It's someone is going to give me a nice Lightning wallet, but I've been waiting for a nice phone wallet, and I'm so frustrated. Is there any phone wallet that you guys like?
I don't remember the last time I used a phone wallet. I can't say I have a need to be spending Bitcoins anywhere.
Yeah, I'm still using my credit card.
Man,
I use the fiat Lightning network called Visa.
Yeah, no, I really do wish that there was I mean, it's hard, right? These things don't exactly make money, right? So it's hard. And people keep talking about how the world's going to be decentralized. Guys, I can't even get a good Bitcoin phone wallet. And you guys are going to talk about someone is going to have an incentive to run a decentralized exchange. Someone is going to have an incentive to run a decentralized Uber. Oh yeah, what happens when two cars crash into each other? Who's going to be, fixing that problem? This whole concept of everything is going to be decentralized is just ridiculous.
Yeah, and we're struggling with Bitcoin, and yet that's the most compelling use case for something being decentralized.
Not only the most compelling use case, the most smart number of engineers try to work on it on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a good framing. I don't think I'd thought about, because we were talking about 2014, 2015. That's when the block size debate was happening, and one of the products of that was Ethereum. And yeah, it is interesting that your response to the fact that Bitcoin, the biggest product, is having the hardest time with this scaling debate from their perspective. The correct answer is somehow let's go make an infinitely more complex system, and somehow that's a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Like clearly, like engineers are having trouble with some people think is the most obvious problem, but somehow we'll solve decentralizing literally everything with ERC20 tokens.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys, this was a lot of fun. We got to do it again. And we're coming up on the top of the hour here. So, Tone, thanks for coming on.
This was great. I'm happy to come on again when maybe, hopefully, I'll be bullish on the price the next time I come on. But that would be great. But if people are looking for my work, you can just Google Tone Vase on YouTube. I've been focusing on my YouTube channel more so than my Twitter. And you can always find me on Twitter as Tone Vase. And my website, libertylifetrail.com, soon to be converted to tonevase.com. And that's pretty much it. Otherwise, watch out for me coming to a city near you, speaking at a Bitcoin event or teaching one of my workshops so that people can be better traders.
My last question for you. When do you think that the next Bitcoin bull market is going to start?
You know what? It's an impossible question to answer because I haven't yet decided when the current bear market is going to bottom. So my best guess is in the fall, like probably around October. We're not going to have exactly the same. It can't be too similar to 2014. So there will be some instances of 2013, 2014. But somewhere around October into November, I can see another bull market towards the end of the year. We saw that in 2013 as well. Like the Silk Road got shut down on October 1st, and it was nothing but up from $80 all the way to 1,200 back in 2013. This past November, December, we did very well. So I really do think that by early fall, we can start going up, but we'll see. Well, I'll keep everyone posted. Everyone will know my views on it.
With that in mind, I recommend all of our listeners go read Mastering Bitcoin by Andreas Antonopoulos and The Bitcoin Standard by our friend Saifedean Ammous, who's been on the podcast. That comes out officially, I think, this week or next week, and already out on Kindle. Study up because we have a lot of time before the Thanksgiving dinner to convince all of our relatives to get in on the Bitcoin train again.
I'm hearing great things about Saifedean's book. I actually need to read it. I need to go out and buy it. But yeah, that might be, this year's annoying Christmas present from Uncle Tone. Read Saifedean's book. I got to read it myself first.
I will be traveling to every stocking, and stuffing it with good Bitcoin knowledge.
All right. And so thanks, everyone, for listening. I think that we had a good time today. We'll have you back on at the next bull market.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Have a good one, Tone.
All right. I've